Before I start the show, I just want to give a huge shout out to all the amazing people I met at Blaze Boot Camp last week. Thank you, Bear Valley, Spring Break Snowboards, High Cascade, Blaze Rosenthal, and all the incredible campers, coaches, celebrity guests, and mountain hosts that made Blaze Boot Camp such a special experience. Highlights included actually trying to learn to butter with Chris Roach, definitely not my strong suit, but getting to ride with Chris and his son Ryder was a bucket list experience that did not disappoint. I met so many amazing people. I'd love to mention them all, but it's time to start the show. The FNRad Snowboard Podcast is presented by Vans. Season 8 of FNRad is sponsored by Wired Snowboards, Anon Optics, the Boardroom Snowboard Shop, FindAnEpicAgent.com, and Tribute Board Shop in Nelson, BC. Anon Optics make killer goggles for snowboarding, and my favorite feature is the quick change magnetic lens. I've always got a second lens on me just in case I stuff it and get snow in the goggles, or if the light changes, as it often does here in Vancouver. Anon's proprietary goggle lens technology is called Perceive. Perceive goggle lenses enhance contrast and clarity across every tint level, so you can get the absolute truest vision and most accurate perception of the surrounding environment, regardless of light and weather conditions. The quick change magnetic technology allows me to change lenses on the fly without taking the goggles off my face. So if you're looking for new goggles, drop by an authorized Anon dealer and try on a bunch of different frame shapes to see what fits your face. And if you wear a helmet, don't forget to bring it to get that perfect fit. Anon goggles are a vital part of an epic day out snowboarding. Support also comes from Dakine, Grouse Mountain, Mount Seymour, Pro Standard GoPro accessories, and Volcom outerwear. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you'd like to win a free Beneath Apparel first layer top and bottom, pause the show, go to the FNRad YouTube channel and comment, "I want new Beneath Apparel" in the comments of this episode, or tag 3 friends in the Instagram post along with Beneath Apparel. I'll pick a new winner every week. I switched to Beneath underwear and first layer this year. It's amazing. Please trust me, you want some. Special thanks this episode to 1910, LibTech, Dragon, Tomahawk Indigenous Products, and be sure to check out Kaya J and the Drink Ticket's new album, Better. Schoph is a British pro snowboarder turned snowboard graphic designer and artist. You've probably seen his work on Volcom, Vans, or LibTech stuff, and he's been collaborating with Jamie Lynn on amazing artwork for a couple of years now. Schoph and Jamie are launching 1910, a new art and clothing brand, and the stuff looks awesome. Schoph's life in snowboarding is unique. His work ethic and no-nonsense approach has brought him into some one-of-a-kind experiences, and we get into it. So sit back and enjoy this snowboarding artist known as Schoph. Yeah, do you listen to Looking Sideways at all with Matt Barr?
Yeah, I try not to because Matt bores me, but no, I'm taking the piss. I love him really, but he's a northerner, so originally from Manchester, so I kind of know him.
Yeah.
With that fellow northern thing and through British snowboarding, but I did one of his podcasts.
Yeah.
A little bit hungover when I did it. I had a few Guinness when we were doing it, but it was quite good fun.
You know, I think of all the people that do snowboard interviews, I think his style is the most on point, in my opinion.
Well, he's educated in it as well. I mean, he's been a journalist in the industry for as long as I've been in it. You know, when I were getting footage and stuff in mags over in Europe and the UK, it was like 9 times out of 10 he worked for that magazine. He was a writer or something. And we've known each other for must be 20 odd years now, something like over 20 years.
How big of a scene is it over there? That I don't have any
in the UK, man. It felt for me because the generation I'm from was from I learned how to, when snowboarding started happening for me, I was a skate kid. My brother passed his driving test at 17 So he's 4 years older than me, so about 12, 13. He took me up to the local dry slope in Sheffield. And that's just plastic, and all you're doing is ripping yourself a new arsehole and snapping fingers. I laughed as well, many a time. But yeah, went up there, and that's when I got hooked on it. And there was only like a few small, you know, snowboard heads there. It was very skier orientated, you know. And you don't, as an artist in the industry, all I saw then was like David Vincent graphic, Jimbo graphics, and that was pretty much it. And that was like the early 90s, like mid 90s. So I just grew up riding dry slope, and just that was it, man. It was like, right, this is what I want to do this. I don't know to what extent and how. I just want to keep doing it for as long as I can, just like when you skate or something. Yeah, so it all started in the 90s, and then slowly I started figuring out how I could get to the Alps. And long story short, I ended up being a dish pig in a kitchen, just washing pots or whatever for a lift pass, or a lift ticket, as you guys call it over here. And yeah, that was it, man. Got over to the Alps, and that's all I wanted to do, is just keep progressing at it. I ended up somehow, well, not somehow, I had a bit of education, and I wasn't very good at school. Like, to be honest, I couldn't be arsed with it. All I could do is make art and stuff and draw and paint. I was no good at your maths, your sciences and stuff like that. And basically I remember, this story's been told a few times, so I do apologise for people who's heard it, but the teacher got us all drawing fruit bowls in this class. I was just drawing something random, and she came up and was like, "Schofield, get out," screwed up the bit of paper and threw it in the bin, and says, "You'll never be an artist and you never do art." Now, this teacher looked like Tina Turner, and like a fucking battle axe. She looked rough as fuck, basically. And I hated her. She always used to wear a long jacket, and like really, yeah, I can think about it now and just cringe a little bit. Anyway, when I walked out, I grabbed it out, and I've still got that sketch in one of my sketchbooks now.
Dope.
And whether or not that sparked a little whatever in, you know, being an artist now or whatever, but maybe it was a good thing that she did that, you know, because I came out of school with nothing. When you're a kid and an adult says something like that to you, I was like, well, I really don't know what to do. So I left school coming out with nothing, and I walked straight into a butcher's job, because my mum wanted me to do well at school and everything like parents do, and want an education behind you. But my old man, he says, look, you know, he was more stoked that I just walked out of school and got a job straight away. And it was like a little yellow ticket saying, "Saturday lad needed," which meant skinning rabbits, plucking pheasants, and delivering meat on a push bike. And the push bike had a small wheel at the front, big wheel at the back, and a big wooden box. And because I was a small kid, every time I used to get off it, the bike tipped up because of all the heavy meat in the front. Kind of old school, you know. It was nuts. It had like the sign of the butcher's sign underneath the crossbar, and yeah, it's pretty funny. But because of that, I ended up coming out of school with nothing, getting a job straight away, go back to the working in the Alps as a dish pig, because I'd worked in a butcher's and I could like know my way around a cleaver and a knife, basically.
Rad.
I knew what to do with meat, and that got me, the head chef clocked that, and he was like, right, you shouldn't be doing that. You need to, you know, because I do a bit of prepping or whatever. And he got me, I worked my way up. Fast forward a few more years, I was a head chef in my own kitchen. Damn. And that took me to Team in the Alps, where I made a home for myself and a base. And that's where I met what I felt at the time, the first part of the British snowboard scene. And there was like a tight crew there, and it was such a good time in snowboarding for me, because it was all new and it was kind of punk rock and everything. And, you know, it was such a good time, and there's such a tight crew of British snowboarders there that all on the same page. And I got to that point. I think it's important to be able to throw in the towel but not be worried about it, and think, right, it's time to move on, it's time to do something new, and not stress about that, because change is good. And I remember throwing the towel in at the hotel management, stick your job, I can't be arsed with it anymore, I'm done, you know. Because I got demoted in a way from a good kitchen looking out of a window onto a beautiful lake and mountains to a kitchen down in the basement, just to a second chef position, thinking, why am I doing this? Like chefing's trendy and cool now, but back then it was when Gordon Ramsay like effing and blinding at people and throwing pots at people. It wasn't a nice place to be.
Yeah.
But now it's a cool thing to be a chef.
Sure,
and it
sure.
is an art form, and I've got some great mates that are chefs, and it's amazing to what it used to be when I was in it.
Well, especially if you have that passion, right? Some people have passion for that shit.
Yeah.
But if you just fall into it,
Yeah.
and your passion is you want to work at night so you can get the fucking pow days in the morning, you want to hit the jumps. Oh, there's a contest coming up. I need this weekend off. And they're going, no, you're a fucking chef, dude. You can't do that.
Yeah.
You're like, well, I'm not a chef. I'm a fucking snowboarder who just happens
to be doing this thing so you can do that thing, you know? And sometimes you do have to have those stepping stones to get to the end, the other side of the river, to know where you... And also it's good to know where you came from, because that gives you a work ethic, you know? From like now, I look back at all those things that I did when I was younger, and that gave me a work ethic to go, you know what? I do have a trade behind me now, and I know how to work, and I do enjoy grafting, you know?
Yeah.
And it's kind of a nice thing, because even art and any kind of art forms work. And it's...
Right.
If you don't have that work ethic behind you, I think a lot of people do find it difficult. And I've said this before, that this procrastination word, it's just bone idle, you're just lazy. Just, why don't you... You know, it's like, to me, and maybe that's an old-fashioned way of thinking, but it is, because if you have an ethic behind you, you'll just keep doing it until you get to the other side of that river, and you've got those stepping stones to do it, you know?
I'm sure you get the question all the time, you know, what advice would you give to a young artist, right? And it's a bullshit question, because if you're either an artist or you're not, you know what I mean? Like, so the only thing that I've ever heard that helped me in creative work, which is, this is kind of creative. It's not art. It's just kind of creative.
But it is an art form, because not many people can sit in front of a microphone.
Anyone could, I think.
Have someone coming in and being able to communicate and to be able to talk.
Right.
And be open, you know?
Yeah, I diminish it, but self-deprecation or whatever. But the thing that helped me was hearing Ira Glass, who's one of the best to ever do it.
Yeah.
He said, listen, the thing that creative people never get told when they're starting out is that everyone who makes creative shit got into it because their taste is good.
Yeah.
So you got killer taste, and then you start doing the thing, and you know what you're doing sucks because you have good taste.
Yeah.
So most people at that point quit. But the only way through sucking and having good taste is to do the thing. Just keep doing it. And do it and do it and do it. And if you talk to anyone, and I'm sure you fall in this camp too, the art that you made at first fell short from what you wanted to do.
Oh, it was complete dog shit. Well, not dog shit. I mean, I had a different taste then, and all the rest of it just wasn't. I can see how my style's like. I think when I was younger as an artist, I was more worried about what people wanted and maybe working towards what people wanted. Mm-hmm. And then I just started working in what I wanted to see.
Right.
And even though you do make art for people, I think it's important as an artist to be able to go, you know what, I want to see that art. You know, I want to do that thing, because then you're going to get the best out of it.
Totally.
You're going to produce your best artwork. You're going to, like when you do commissions for some brands or whatever, sometimes they put too much on you that they go, oh, can you just change this? Can you just change that? You know, well, no, because that's my artwork, and you're just commissioning me just to make art for you now, because you can't paint a picture.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Not in a dickhead way, but like that's how sometimes it feels like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
You just want to draw a picture, but you don't know how to do it, so you're going to get me to do it and change it how they want it exactly.
I'm going through that right now with a designer. So he's designing a logo for the show.
Yeah.
And he's not a snowboarder, and I want it to say snowboarding. But he's also telling me, like, dude, you don't understand. There's design elements. There's all this. There's all that. But I'm literally asking him to design something because I can't. Yeah. Like, if I could, I'd fucking do it. Yeah. I keep doodling all these sketches and giving them to him, and he's like, that's not what it's going to be, dude.
Yeah, it's a fine line, and it's difficult because you do want to give people your best work, and you do want to do your best job, because at the end of the day, as an artist, you want to put your name on something you're proud of, and that's why a lot of people do everything, not just the artists. Like, why put your name on something that you're not happy with?
Absolutely.
And I think that's so important, that you have that relationship with whoever you're working with. You know, I'm fortunate, the brands I work with now, if I would have told 12-year-old Schoph, who I'm working with now and where I am in snowboarding, you know, he would have probably I don't know. I don't know what you would have thought, but I don't think you would have thought I'd be doing this. But
I really love that the British scene, is that what you called it? Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm like, even though Canada is a Commonwealth,
yeah.
I didn't know the Queen was married until like 2 years ago.
Well, yeah, she
I was like,
she got up to a
how
few
is-
things over there. Yeah,
How's
she got
the
married
fucking
and kids and
Queen married and there's no king? That doesn't make any sense. What the
Yeah.
fuck are you talking about?
Yeah,
I didn't
to be
understand
honest, I think it's great that we've got a royal family because I just think it's cool. I like medieval shit, and back in the day,
Yeah, bloodlines and crazy shit.
I'm the wrong person to talk about it though because they do bore me a little bit as well. But I think it's cool. I mean, my mate Si can probably explain a little bit more. Who's with us now, but I don't quite understand all that.
But I love that the British snowboard scene happens in Tignes. That's France, right? Like it's kind of like the Quebec snowboard scene in Canada.
Yeah,
There's some that happens in Quebec, but it really blows up in Whistler.
yeah,
Right? Because those guys are out of their element. And then they're like, holy fuck, you're from Quebec? And I can speak French to you?
Yeah.
And the camaraderie of like 3 different generations of French guys have created some of the best fucking snowboarding in the whole world.
In that whole area, though, it's like in teen, I think nowadays it changed with different generations. You know, a lot of people used to come out to the US after that, and Morzine of Oriaz was a huge spot. Meerhofen was a huge spot, and now Lax is obviously the spot. But at the time, I remember going there, and you know, everyone seemed to be there for the same reason, to be snowboarding and to doing it and being involved. And the terrain there's amazing. It's alpine, it's above the tree level, so you're guaranteed snow, and that was a huge pull for a lot of people. These other resorts, Morzine, every time I've been, it's been like this in Seattle, just raining. That's me taking it over the top of it, and some great snowboarders have come from that area and stuff. But you know, just to have that terrain that Tignes had and that scene there, it was great. And then I could learn more about. I didn't even realize it was a British scene until I got there.
Right.
And then when I threw the towel in, the next day, literally, a guy called Chris Moran, he's a good friend of Matt Barr's as well, and they worked together. I think he started White Lines or Document Snowboard Mag, or I can't really remember, but he called me up the next day and said, "Are you Schoph?" And I'm like, "I'm guilty." And he went, "We want to do a debut on you in a magazine."
Next day.
I'm like, "What?" I didn't even know what it was. I'd seen snowboard mags, but I didn't know that they're doing debuts and stuff. And he went, a close friend of ours, Will Hughes, he's like an older brother to me, like a really grumpy older brother. But we've been friends for so long, and he kind of took me under his wing a little bit, and he told me about sponsorship and things like that. I'm like, right, I don't quite understand this. I just wanted to snowboard. I didn't care about. I was just so happy to be in the mountains, because snowboarding is that as well. You know, when you're in the mountains, it's that lifestyle. It's that place. It's been there, and experiencing it. Where I'm from back in England, it's very working class, grey, bleak. It's the north of England, and it's a certain type of person that comes from there because of the environment. But when you get to the mountains, you're like, oh my God, this is amazing,
Yeah.
And so I wasn't really interested in any of that, but Will kind of said, look, they're going to phone you up, they're going to talk to you about it, do a little interview on you, and then they'll get a shot, so you're going to have to work with a photographer. And he told me all this, and at the time, I had a very close friend, still am. He shoots for the GB snowboard team now, a guy called Sam Mellish, and we started shooting together. I'm like, mate, have you ever taken pictures of snowboarders? He's like, what do you mean? And he was in the Alps. He was working in kitchens as well.
Yeah.
So it was great to build that relationship with him, because I just left working to snowboard, and he'd just left working to shoot. So we made that partnership, and it worked really well for me because we were so close. And we travel around the Alps a little bit and shoot, and it just fell into place. And then Electric hit me up, Capita, Union, and Holden.
Damn.
When Holden first came, Riders Lounge were bringing it into the UK like a distribution, and I just remember getting my first box, and I was like, my God, I've got 2 free snowboards here. Sure, I don't have to pay for them. Or someone like robbed them and given them to me. I didn't understand what was going on. And then it was really funny, because I remember going to the Alps to start that season, and Holden was a new thing, the tight pants.
Yeah.
And literally everyone was still wearing Foursquare Special Blend.
The big stuff.
Yeah. Big, like, crocheted hats with tassels. And
fuck yeah.
it was pretty nuts, man. And And I
what era is this? Like 97, 98 kind of timing?
It must have been early 2000s.
Early
I think,
2000s.
because I spent a bit of time working in kitchens. It's like I get a bit confused with my dates, but maybe 3 or 4 years just getting to grips, like earning cash, having enough money to stay out there if I did lose my job. Just figure it out, doing a bit of work to actually stay there, and then everything started falling into place slowly before I left. So I was like, oh, wait a minute, I'm getting a bit of interest here, and rather than jump ship straight away and have no money because I didn't know anything how this worked, I was like, well, do that proper first, and then I guess taking myself back to that work ethic of just knowing that you need money to do shit, especially being in the Alps far from home. So yeah, that's what happened, and I got hooked up with those companies over in the UK and Europe, and I was like, I remember turning up, and I think the first pant that I got was a Whit Lake pant, and it had like bondage straps on it and stuff. So I turns up in scene the next year, and I was like, what the fuck have you come as? Like, I'm like, I don't know. I just got a box full of clothes, so I'm just wearing it, and I'm really stoked. Yeah, and that was it.
Yeah.
Fast forward 2 years, loads of people are wearing it.
Of course,
it spread like wildfire out there. But from that, it was just so good to have that support and actually learn about how it all worked. And back then in the UK and Europe, there wasn't that much money. It was more like you get a travel budget and then you work in the summers, and it's not like nowadays that the trick around then was the 4 horsemen. It was the 4 sevens,
Yeah.
And now it's whatever kids are doing now that are amazing. I can't even keep up. But
it's just been gutted.
Yeah. It was like that was the kind of era, and doing that and getting to know it, how it all worked. It was amazing, and there was a tight crew there. There was a guy called Josh Wolf, Ryan Davis, Nelson Pratt. He's not with us anymore. My mate Will Hughes. Guy called Hamish McKnight. He's now the coach for, I don't know if he's still coaching, but he coaches the GB team.
Damn.
Yeah, there was a tight crew, and we were all doing it for the same reasons. And then my friend Will, he got on the same kind of deal as me with Holden and stuff, and had that certain vibe around that look.
Yeah.
And then Burning Bridges and all those videos came out.
Sick.
And it was like, wait a minute, this is a whole thing,
Yeah.
I mean, I was brought up dry slope. My favorite ever movie is The Garden. And it was like totally, I was obsessed with it. But then when these other videos came out and something I could associate with, I was like, wait a minute, this is cool, man. Like, and also it's cool because it's a bit different and it felt a little bit more creative to me. So about a year later, I was just jumping off everything to flat. That was about it. A little bit hungover going, oh, bollocks, let's do it. Or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
I saw Love Hate in a theater.
Yeah.
Like Mike came up to Vancouver.
Yeah.
The Wildcats were doing a premiere. In this day and age of snowboarding, they could sell out a big theater, and they could only do each theater in Vancouver one time because then they would get kicked out.
Yeah.
Because people were throwing beers down from the balcony, like it was like fucking chaos.
Yeah.
I saw Mike come out because his movie was not the headliner. It played before the Wildcats.
Yeah.
Or whatever the hell the next movie was. Devin's out there, and Mike comes out and says to Devin, like, what'd you think? And I heard Devin like saying, like, that was like the fucking raddest movie I've ever seen in my life. It was so original.
Yeah.
And so like not what was going on at that time. Like, how are your knees, buddy? And it was just this incredible, it was just like a part of snowboarding where everything else was just going X Games and bigger, crazy
I think it needed
stuff.
to happen in snowboarding as well.
Yeah.
It was, I mean, the time that I was doing stuff with the Riders Lounge, you were bringing those companies in, I had so much fun, I mean, it changed over the years to the brands that I'm working with now. But during that time, it felt for me, especially being a UK rider and stuff, and just seeing everything around you, because I love the UK scene. It's tight. I've had some great riders in the years, and recently now Mia Brooks, she's just going to rip. Like, she's such a talented young girl, and she's going to be an amazing well, she is an amazing snowboarder,
Right.
But back in the day as well, there was that many amazing snowboarders for the time as well. And with that such of a tight little pocket, there was also room for something like that. And I always remember, like, there was a lot of the British scene doing their thing. And I mean, I weren't really into it that much, you know.
Sure.
There are a lot of cheesy videos and stuff that I'll probably have someone fucking say something about this to me, but, you know, singing funny, like, party songs at the end and miming and all that.
Awesome.
It's just not my thing, but I was
Right.
kind of in the side of it that I was having the opportunity to do things a little bit more looser and a bit more creative. And I loved that being an artist. I was like, this is cool. And it's nice that snowboarding can have that, because you hear people say, what's a bad trend or whatever. There ain't one in snowboarding. There's that many pockets that you can get involved with whatever you want to do.
Totally.
Who gives a shit, you know?
Right.
And that's how it was to me. It was like, I loved being a part of that in the UK scene, you know? It was a good laugh, but my knees aren't thanking me nowadays, but what it is, what it is.
Well, I think there's something about coming from somewhere that doesn't have everything, right?
Yeah.
Like when you're in teen at first, if you run into someone who grew up there,
Oh, yeah.
they're not hungry. They're
No.
just like waiting for a POW day, and they're like, yeah, it's always good.
Yeah.
They haven't moved from somewhere where it kind of fucking sucked all the time
Yeah.
to somewhere where it's like, oh my God, are you guys seeing this? I just did a 20-foot drop into powder. Like, did you guys see that? That's like the biggest thing that we couldn't do that back home.
Yeah.
Because there's not snow and there's not drops like that. Yeah. So there's like this hunger and this appreciation for the people that move to a really good spot that it's cool to hear you talk about it.
Yeah, you do appreciate it, though, because being from England, all you did have at the time was plastic. And
Right.
there's only so many times you can rip yourself a new backside and
Yeah.
snap fingers. It just gets a bit boring after a while. And it's rock hard. It's just plastic Dendex. It's like big toothbrushes. And
You're addicted to this thing
Yeah.
that is kind of shitty.
Yeah.
You kind of know in your head, though, if we go somewhere else, it's going to get way better. But even if you stayed there the whole time, you'd have fun doing it.
Because you've got your mates around you as well. And if your mates are there, you're going to have a laugh. So
That's it.
it was that back in the day, it was kind of a rite of passage that a lot of the British scene went through that snowboard period on dry slope. And I look back at it quite fondly. I remember, I can't remember which British champs it was, but I said this to Matt on the Looking Sideways. There was a riot up at Sheffield Dry Slope, and I was only a young kid, and it was after the British champs, and that's where it used to be held, at Sheffield Dry Slope, and it just shit at the fan. There's like, you know, proper riot, like everyone's leathered and going throwing stuff, and like it ended up like being shut down by the police and everything. And this guy, there was a guy called Russ Ward that had like he lived in a one-berth little black caravan, and you'd have to drive up through a little train archway, all the way back up to the Sheffield Dry Slope where the car park was. His house, this caravan, got pushed down there and got stuck in the archway. And like, when I saw shit like that as a kid, I was like, this is the best. Snowboarding is amazing, man. Like, there was something about it that I was attracted to. I'm thinking, this is cool. Like, this is something, I can't actually explain it. I just loved that whole feeling of being involved with someone.
I feel like the whole world is that now, but they don't have the snowboarding to go with it. Do you know what I mean? It's like me. There's something very selfish about, you know, saying like, yeah, no, I'm not going to university. I'm not going to school. I'm not getting a shitty butcher job. I'm going snowboarding.
Yeah.
And then your parents go, well, what are you going to do for work? You go, I don't fucking care.
Yeah.
I'll steal. I'll rob. I'll sell a bit of weed on the side.
Which sometimes it works with people, you know? I mean, you know, I think where I was brought up, that was kind of what you do. You get a job and you learn that work ethic and you're surrounded by it. So that's how it worked for me. But then some people do that, and you know, it blows my mind that some people, it's cool, you know, if you can get away with it. Yeah,
it seems to fall apart after a few years, right? Like I'm, you know, way off topic here, but my family's from Denmark.
Yeah.
And Christiansen or whatever in downtown Copenhagen. When it started out, it was like a hippie commune. Like, don't come in here, no rules. We're smoking weed. We're not paying any money for this.
Is that why you were brought up then?
No, I wasn't brought up there.
I was going to say,
that would have been sick as hell. But I've heard podcasts on how it is now, and it's just the same as everything else. They've got their own rules that are just dumb rules, the same as any other society.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to do shit. You know, your flat is hereditary, so you can give it to your kids. It's just dumb.
Yeah.
Like, eventually, anything lawless, you go, okay, well, I can't sell weed for my whole life here. You take a job somewhere, or you get a job in the industry.
Yeah.
I got a job at a shop. I worked at a shop for a really long time. And
people do take that path though, man. That, I used to, back in Doncaster where I'm from, there used to be a kind of a little hub called Extreme Sports, and it was just a snowboard shop that sold mountain bikes in the summers. But every rider that was at Sheffield Dry Slope guaranteed had been through that shop and got a shop sponsor.
Right.
And I was the kid that used to sit there reading Onboard or whatever on the steps, just being a sponge.
Yeah.
And I think that's important in snowboarding, to have that community as well when you're a kid and there's like older guys.
It's gone now.
Yeah,
it's gone. I'll tell you from my interactions with younger snowboarders, it's gone because there is no onboard magazine.
Yeah.
There's your feed. So your feed, I don't know about yours. If we looked at it right now, I'm sure I'd be like, that's weird. And if you look
Mine's
at
just got dogs. Dogs doing stuff.
Mine's got babies falling down and motorcycle accidents and snowboarding. And
snowboarding and dogs and artwork.
But think about how we felt about snowboard magazines.
Yeah.
If they would have put some dogs in there, I would have been like, I'm not reading this magazine anymore.
Yeah.
If they would have put babies falling down in Transworld, the fucking whole industry would have had a shit fit.
Yeah.
They would have been like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, man.
But that's our magazines now. Mine doesn't match yours.
Yeah.
Every once in a while I could say, oh, did you see that last shot of Longo fucking blasting over there? And everybody's seen it.
Yeah.
But it's not like it used to be, because you could go to a trade show and absolutely everybody had seen every image of everything.
It's so true, and it's something that's lost.
It's lost. It's,
whether or not that's just change and time moving on, and I think that's also an important thing to embrace as well, that time does go on and things change, and but there again, it's nice to hold on to that. It's nice to...
We were lucky. Yeah. We were so lucky.
So it was a golden era, I feel like.
I could not... You can't put it in any better way. Yeah. It was a golden era. It's like... I say it a lot now. It's like, when we were kids in school.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but in Canada, we must have had something to do with basketball being invented. I think it was invented in Toronto or something. You'd see these old black and white videos of guys in like knickerbockers, and then we cut the bottom out of the peach basket, and Dr. K, whoever invented it knew. Like, that's Tom Sims.
Yeah.
That's Jake Burton.
Yeah.
Like, they invented snowboarding, not... there was snowboarding before, but they invented the snowboarder. They invented the companies that sold these things to us. They gathered the people together to do the marketing, the artwork. Like, if you look at old like Sim stuff, there's stuff that Scott Klum did that's really sick.
Literally being up at the lodge this past week, I walked past, in the little dorm rooms and whatnot. The Sims Selaznek on the wall, the Noah. Yeah. That was my first snowboard.
Dope.
And the cool thing was my parents got it me. They didn't know anything about what a snowboard was. It's just like a big skateboard with no wheels on.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. But it snowed quite a bit up where I'm from at the time. I don't know what's happening with the environment, but it wasn't like it was when I was a kid.
Right.
And literally they'd gone to the shop where I used to sit there and read magazines after school and stuff. And they got it for me. And I used to look at this board going, and as a young artist, I'd be like, going, God, just look at, you could soak it in. Mm-hmm. There was a bit more, there was something romantic about it, not only the act of snowboarding, but this other thing that there is art involved with it.
Yes.
And because I loved just drawing when I was a kid, I was like, this is cool. Like,
sick.
And then one day I went in and it had gone off the wall, and I was like, oh, and I said to Dean, I'm like, someone bought that. And at the time I had a paper round as well as the butcher, so I'm saving up for this snowboard.
Oh, nice.
I didn't get pocket money or anything like that, but I was like, oh God, I need to get a snowboard. And it had baseless bindings on it. It was like, with the small high backs, but it's all molded. I can't remember what Sims bindings there were, but it had gone off the wall. Anyway, Christmas Day came round, and it had been hid behind the sofa for like 2 months.
No
And it was wrapped up and everything. He just gave it to me, and I got it, unwrapped it, literally left everything else and went straight out because it was dumping on Christmas Day.
Amazing.
Went straight to the end of the hill at the end of the road.
Amazing.
And I think my mum had to come and get me, saying, Christmas dinner's ready. Just like, I was, bright red in the face, like dripping sweat, like a little lad, like, one of those kids that run around at weddings and skid along on the knees on the floor.
Totally. Yeah.
I was like that.
That's so
running up and down this hill.
That's amazing.
And I just remember getting it, but going back to that thing about the graphics, that really stood out to me. And I actually know the guy who's got that board now, and I'm still trying to get it off him.
Sick.
So if he does listen to this, just so you know, just reminding you.
It's worth it. Yeah, get it back. Come on.
Yeah, but it's true, man. Some of the graphics and stuff like that, it was very romantic to me because it had the artwork and it weren't just the act of snowboarding, which is I love as well. But
there was art all over everything.
Yeah.
The magazines had like just little art in the margins. Yeah, there was design work in every ad.
Yeah, and also
it was marketing to us.
Also found it was a lot looser as well. Like I keep saying, things do change and change is good, but I feel that a lot of magazines now do it in a certain format, so it looks a bit slick or it looks a bit something like that.
Sure.
Back then, it was like very like you'd see a Thrasher magazine, or you'd see something, or you'd see a font, or you'd see something a bit more just loose.
Yeah, yeah.
And I used to love that because it felt like it was just literally an artist had come in and just drawn on a
authentic, totally.
Authentic. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. But
yeah,
I used to love that, man. I feel I guess that's lost a little bit as well. But there again.
Think of that Aaron Vincent graphic with the mushroom,
man.
Like that would never fly today.
Yeah,
ever.
They were such good graphics as well, like the colors and everything. It was just so simple. And I remember riding Sheffield dry slope when I was a kid, just going, you go and get your boots on, and we're not talking airwalk scrubs here. I was wearing like hard boots, like ski boots.
Awesome.
Binding set like, Euro carve.
Yes.
And yeah.
That's so awesome.
But it's just nice to have those memories, man, because you don't, even sat here now just thinking about it, you never have this conversation about, everything now is just, oh, check. Oh, well, that's like...
That's it. And there's a cynicism to a lot of the conversations. Oh, you tried those Burton step-ons, and then step-ons. Like there is a bit of a cynicism. Yeah. Like everything's kind of been done.
Yeah.
Whereas those years, when next year's shit comes out, like when you're talking about that Holden stuff, like it was mind-blowing.
Yeah.
It was like, oh my God, can I get this? I remember when Nomis came out, and I was just like, that.
Yeah.
Nomis. But Holden as well was like that. Like you want that.
It was a trip because I can't remember how many years I got Holden stuff, but like later down the line, I got on the radar of the godfather of UK snowboarding, guy Jeremy Sladen. And he still is. He's helped so many people out in UK snowboarding. He's a part of TSA, the Snowboard Asylum, and from that, you'd have the shop hookups again, and each year, dinosaurs, then it was Signal. And then literally one of the guys that used to work for Jazz, he ended up being the UK team manager for LibTech.
Nice.
And because he related my artwork to stuff, he's like, we need to get you in front of Lib. And that's how going from that, it changed from the Holden stuff to... And I was kind of like, I enjoyed that period of time because it was something different. But then I was like, it's time for change now. It's time to maybe do something a bit more. And the artwork was sort of falling into place as well. And that's how LibTech started because of this UK team manager. He approached me and went, I want you to ride for Lib.
Rad.
And then Jez was like, oh, what are you doing nicking my riders and all this? Like just a bit of bullshit in between them. And I just always remember that. And it was just such a nice time because as a kid growing up, that's all I wanted to do is like be a part of what Lib does.
Yeah.
Maybe because of Jimbo's graphics, maybe just because who Jimbo was. But it's something that always stood out to me. And it felt so non-reachable from the UK, from where I'm from. It's like, there's no way someone from the UK could be involved with that, let alone like the art side of it, that was down the line. But I didn't even think, in fact, a very well-known person in British snowboarding said to me, there's no way you're ever going to get a LibTech graphic. There's no way. And that took me back to old Battle Axe, the art teacher. I was like, oh, that's happened to me before. And I know how this plays out, but I'll play it cool.
Right.
Maybe that sparked a little, but these things happen. It's just those things that change things. And then that puts you on a different path that I never thought that, it'd go the way it did so organically. And so, it's kind of interesting when you step back and look at that.
What's the first artwork that gets, used in a magazine or gets...
I'd started doing stuff with Dragon first.
Sick.
And Dragon, actually, it all kind of blends into one. I was like this period of 10 years because I'd started doing stuff with Dragon first because I went from electric to Dragon.
Right.
And then I was approached by the US saying, do you want like an artist goggle? And I'm like, yeah, sick. From that, I got like a sunglass as well. And that's the first proper collaboration I did with a brand. And then from that was the same kind of period of time that I was going to ISPO, SIA a couple of times and things like that and getting on the radar and stuff. So it was probably Dragon I started working with first, and then we were doing this thing. Basically, I was an acting tour manager. What I'd done is, this is kind of going off on a different tangent, but I'd got this brand with a mate, and we had this tour called the Shithouse Tour. And I'm a bit of a music head, and I like what I like, and to be honest, I don't like what I don't like.
Okay.
And I ain't got the bandwidth to whatever, but
yeah.
So I got over listening to like cover bands in the Alps. And I'm into my rock and roll and stuff, and I was like, God, it'd be good to just listen to some good music. And then I'm thinking, wait a minute, I've got a platform here. I'm working with Dragon, doing stuff with Vans. You know, Monster, they were involved somehow and all that. But I approached these sponsors that were supporting me and went, look, I've got this great idea. Can you guys give us a bunch of cash to like tour the Alps like 2-3 weeks with 2 metal bands and 18 of my mates? And then literally, I submitted it. Maybe not 18, maybe 15, including the band.
Yeah.
Bands. And literally, Nick Street from Vans came back. He's like, yeah, when do you want to do it? I'm like, fucking hell, it worked. Literally, Dragon followed suit because Vans had. And then Monster said, oh, we'll do better than Vans.
Oh, my God.
So in the end, we ended up getting quite a bit of wad of cash. And we did it for about 7 years or something.
Wow.
Throughout the Alps for a period of time. And what we do is we shred in a day. We get like the same photographer, Sam Mellish, and maybe someone else. They come along, shoot, and then we throw one hell of a party and then fuck off to the next resort.
Amazing.
The next day. And we go bang, bang, bang. So we started in France, through to Austria, Switzerland. Yeah, we were touring quite a bit. But during that time, that's when I linked with Jamie because he was Candy Coded was his band at the time. And he had his link to Dragon, obviously.
Yep. And Vans.
And Vans, and, you know, those companies that I was working with as well. So it kind of really organically happened when I met him. But he was the headlining band for Lax when we came through and did the final party for the British Championships at the time when it was there. And Jimbo came through, and it kind of blew the back doors off it. Like, they headlined, and they were like, wait a minute, these guys are really doing something here. This takes it away from your original question, but I'll get back to it.
I get it
now.
I like this. This is dope.
So I met Jim, and we started talking anyway, and I were coming out to ISPO. Jim was there, and obviously with his links to LibTech and the UK team manager, he clocked that I was riding for Lib. And we were out there, and Jim's there. I've not seen him since the Shithouse tour. He's like, hey, brother, how's it going? Mumbling as he does, and he came over.
That was such a good Jamie impression.
I've heard that recently, actually. Spend a bit of time with him, don't I?
Yeah.
Literally came over, gave me a hug, and we were just talking. And the cool thing is we'd only briefly hung out during that period of time in Lax, but we kind of clicked. And he came over. He was signing like this. There was a massive queue out the LibTech booth. He's signing like, you know, blue chicks and blue cats and mountains and waves and stuff. But he come out, gave me a hug, and there's this queue going like that. And then he gave me a hug. He's like, I'll go and do this shit, but let's link in a minute. Anyway, went over. When he went like that, it was an exchange. Pete Sari came over. He's like, oh, you've met Jamie? I'm like, yeah, Schoph, pleased to meet you. And Andy, the team manager, he's like, oh, this is Schoph, one of our UK riders. He's like, oh, right. And then he went, he does artwork. It turned out that Sari had what became the first graphic I did for Banana Magic in 2014 on his screensaver for like 4 months or something.
What?
And he didn't know who the artist was.
Brad.
So he went, wait a minute, did you paint this? And he showed me it on his phone. I'm like, yeah, I painted that in my studio down in Brighton at the time. That's where I was living. And he's like, yeah, we need to talk. And at that point I'm going, wait a minute, come on. And I tried to hold that stoke in a little bit, thinking,
yeah,
what's going to happen here? And just tried to play it cool. And I was like, Pete, I'd love to talk. He's like, so you met Jamie and explained a bit there about the shithouse tour and stuff and what I do with Dragon. And pretty much then he's like, yeah, we want to get you as a graphic artist for LibTech. Rewind to the 20-year-old Schoph that someone said I'd never get a graphic on Lib. I just want to phone him up and go, remember that conversation we had about? Anyway, there's no point in doing shit like that, I don't think. But yeah, it was kind of a real organic way I felt that. And what I really liked about it, even though Jim was there as a mate supporting and stuff, I always feel that, I think about this quite a lot, empty cans make the most rattle. And you usually just let your work do the talking. And I feel that Sari had my artwork on there, and rather than stress and think, oh, is it good enough to do a graphic for Liv? Is it what? He'd actually just seen it for what it is. Didn't know me, didn't know my background, didn't know anything. But it was so organic because I was already doing stuff over the pond with Lib. I was like, man, that worked really well. I didn't have to say anything. I didn't really have to. They just wanted to work with me as an artist. And I remember when they sent the contract to and went, any chance I can get like a 3-year contract?
Rad.
And they went, no, we don't really do that, Schoph, but we'll see how it goes next year. And it's coming up 10 years as an artist with them this year. And Annette messaged me and said, yeah, we can't wait for the next 10. And I'm like, building that relationship, I think, is so important, though. Like,
oh, yeah.
With any brands, not just in snowboarding or anything, but as an artist, you've got to really respect who you're working with and also make it their life easy, but also they've got to respect you and let you be an artist, and you've got to be honest about it, and you've got to say what's what, not be a dick about it, but just be like, look, this is how I feel this should go, or have that open line of communication with a lot of the brands you work with. And I'm fortunate that from Lib and having Dragon, Volcom fell into place, and Vans, and as a kid snowboarded on a dry slope, I couldn't think of any better brands to actually be a part of, and obviously close friends like Jim, he's a piece of the furniture and who he is in snowboarding. It's nice to be able to affiliated with just good people, and I think that goes a long way, and I think the more you can do that as an artist, like, I think it goes such a long way rather than, I struggle sometimes when you hear that saying starving artist and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't need to be. Right. Just try and be a pro at whatever you do. Just try and do your best. Right. And that's all you can do.
Absolutely.
And I think that's important. Like, as long as you can do your best and lay all your cards on the table, don't hold back. Just do your best. And if anything does come up, talk about it. And that's how you get the best art out of people. And that's how you get those best relationships. And I think it happened for me so organic that, yeah, going back to that question, that's a very long-winded answer, mate. But it was Dragon and then Lib. Then
that's so sick.
It all fell into place. And for me, I still pinch myself sometimes because the opportunities I've had in snowboarding now through those brands and the people I've been able to work with, heavy hitters of the industry, that 13-year-old kid riding dry slope coming from Doncaster with no mountains for miles.
Right.
I never thought it was so far out of reach then that now I just have to go, yeah, this is good. But then you have to think, well, I'm an artist. I do what I do. And
yeah.
Just leave it at that. Don't overthink it,
Yeah, I guess when I think about what kind of, stereotypes I think of when I think, oh, he's an artist. Like I'm like, what kind of question am I going to ask this guy? And part of it was that kind of, okay, so do you do anything else? Right? Like, yeah. Which is like, are you able to do art all the time? Is it pay the bills? Like, do you get a $10,000 commission and then you live off that for a year as a just like, eating, ramen noodles for the rest of the year?
Yeah.
Or is it like a legit career that you've created
I think it's
out of authenticity? Right.
I think it is. It's got to be authenticity at the end of the day because you don't want to, as an artist, you want to do what you want to do and you want to make the art that you want to make and stuff. Mm-hmm. And you have to keep that original thing about you, what you do. And it doesn't need to be, sometimes I've been in situations through the years as an artist, I've done anything to make myself be able to work painting and nothing else. Like some people have to do jobs or whatever, and that's cool, just because they've got more responsibility than me, I guess, like wife, kids, whatever. Mm-hmm. But house, I remember I won't really say I was homeless, but I lived in a studio that I shouldn't have been living in there. And it was a roof over my head. So, and all I was bothered about is working. So I had a bit of a weird routine. I wasn't allowed to live in this building, but I had like a pull-out sofa, and I had to leave after the security guy came in, and had this weird routine of setting my alarm at 5:30 to get up, walk out, go for a coffee before the security came back in. So it looked like I'd come in at 8:30 in the morning.
Perfect.
And like just those things that's literally when I painted my first ever LibTech graphic as well during that period. And I was in the studio for maybe 2 months, and God, I looked like death warmed up afterwards. Like I had a sty underneath my eye. My hair was a bit longer. My beard was a bit shorter. I just looked haggard, man. But I look back at that quite fondly, because you hear some artists going, oh, just dragging it out a bit. And you're like, well, if you just do it and get involved with it and just crack on, the more you do something, I can't see it going tits up, to be honest. And the more you put into something, the more you do your best at something. Just keep at it, even though you will go through these peaks and troughs. But you'll always come out of it if you just keep at it, and you don't let these distractions come in or anything. And I've been in those positions that I think, I do look fondly of those times that, I did struggle quite a bit, but in a weird way, I kind of knew where it was going.
Rad.
Because I'd already done stuff with drag, and I was already, doing that transition as a snowboarder to being a full-time artist in the industry. That was that sort of period of time. And I kind of knew deep down where it was going. I don't know why. I just thought, this is what I'm going to do now.
That's rad.
And I will make art every fucking day.
Right.
Because that's what I want to do. And there's nothing else going to touch that,
Yeah.
And I was fortunate being in the industry that we are, because I get to do the two things that I fucking really love, nothing touches them. And it's those little times when you have to go through those little peaks and troughs. They'll happen, but I think it's important sometimes,
I think I was talking with, there's a couple of people that I've had this conversation with, like, can't buy another day of the week, right? There's only time, right? So if your main motivation is make money, which is totally fine. If you're authentically trying to build an empire, right? I talked with a guy, Matt Belzil, who's on K2, he's a rad snowboarder, and he's like, I just wanted to have 20 doors, and then I could relax because I'm having a daughter and a wife, and 20 doors. He put that into his head. He wants to have 20 places that he owns where the door opens. He owns what's in there.
Yeah.
And as he's working towards that, because that's what he really wants to do, he's authentically building this empire. But there's this temptation when you find what you want to do to somehow now fit it into a money model.
Yeah.
Like, and you'll get people that say, okay, what you got to do with your art now, you should make some stickers. You should get a website. You should, get into this vending machine. This is very lucrative, and somehow that takes takes a piss out of the authenticity of the work. You talked about it at first as a more naive younger artist. You're not as confident in your work. So you're like, okay, what would dragon like? I'm going to just draw dragons for a year or whatever.
That's exactly. You've got to, like, if I had to say something to an artist coming up in the industry or whatever, I would have to say that, like, don't do it for other people. Try and do it for yourself the best you can. And like I say, empty cans do make the most rattle. If you kick it, it's like someone who talks too much. Stop talking and just get on with it. Like, it's that thing that's just the way it is sometimes, mate,
Yeah.
Like, I feel.
Well, I hear your sensibility, right? And it obviously comes from where you grew up.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think you'd be saying the same thing if you were born and raised in teen, right? Like, you wouldn't be the guy.
Different environment, different, it'd be a different ball game, really. But I think a lot of us are who we are because of where we're from, and I'm very fortunate to be where I'm from. When I was a kid, I was like, I've got to get out of here. But during COVID, I spent a bit of time there and then realized actually there is worse places than this to be.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no place like home. Sometimes you're home and it just feels good. Right. And the things you thought you hated, you kind of like them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot I do hate about coming from Yorkshire, but what it is what it is. It's funny, isn't it? It's funny stuff like that, mate.
I can see in anyone that's from somewhere else, like out in BC where I'm at, like a kinship with like, yeah, it's good to get out of places.
Yeah.
It's actually, this is a weird tangent, but I've been trying to think about like, you know, how do you teach kids to be good people, right? And what are our stories that we tell our children, right? Like I find in some of the indigenous cultures, like they've got these great, like, you know, stories that really tell you how to live your life.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? You don't fish the whole fucking lake empty or you die. Like that's a cool story.
That stuff's important. You know?
Right. And then when I listen to our stories, like Jack and the Beanstalk is like a fucking kid that goes to his neighbor and steals his shit and then murders him.
Yeah.
That seems like a terrible story, right? But it's not that. That's the story of, it's a very actually old story. It's thousands, tens of thousands of years old or 10,000 years old. It's really old, Jack and the Beanstalk.
You see, I always think about stuff like that and think, why aren't stories like that anymore? Like, why aren't kids growing up with stories like that? Who made them? Who came up with it? Who came up with this folklore? Or who came... I spend a lot of time
cultures,
like, I've been close with Danny Larson for quite a while because he's another artist from the industry, and we're both like represented by a gallery that I've been working for maybe 12 years now, and they're based in the UK. And Danny, I got him involved with it maybe a couple of years ago, and spending time in Norway, they've got so many cool things, like little folklore things.
Yeah.
I think that's so important because his kids are just such lovely kids.
Right.
And they're growing up with this imagination of all these things, you know, and you can see that they're soaking it in like sponges, you know.
Right.
And it always makes me think, I wonder if I could come up with a mad folklore story that...
Dude, you got to hear the layers of Jack and the Beanstalk. Check this shit out. It's actually a story of the call to adventure, the thing that we both did.
Yeah.
So Jack is if he stays with his family, the whole family will starve. And even though they have a cow, the cow's starving. The food source is gone. So he goes away from the house and gets tricked into this magic beans thing. But the magic beans is a stand-in for the call to adventure. So it's like Jack went to town and they said, hey, there's a ship leaving for China. You should hop on the ship. It's just opportunities galore. You'll see the world. You'll become a better person. He goes back to his parents and says, hey, this guy says, you know, magic beans. I should go on a trip. Dad throws the shit out the window. Like, no, that's going out the window. You are staying here.
Wow.
You're working the fucking farm, bro, because that's what we've always done. But if he stays, everyone starves.
Yeah.
So he goes off. The magic beans grow a beanstalk. He goes on the trip and he finds the goose that lays a golden egg. He finds...
Oh, yeah, that goose comes into it somewhere.
Yeah. He finds the ultimate treasure, which is experience. That's what life is about, is getting experiences. Then he comes back to his family and he's celebrated as a hero. And there's going to be challenges, giant challenges, and he slays the giant challenges. That's what it is. He goes and he fucking does it, and he comes back and everybody celebrates him. That's Jack and the Beanstalk. It's a lot less bullshit than like the murdering kid thing I was thinking.
It's been
maimed. Yeah. But we do have cool stories like that. And the Norwegian ones are really dope. Like that shit is awesome. I love that.
Yeah, it is. I think it's definitely important for kids to grow up with stuff. I mean, I don't have kids, but I've got a lot of friends that are popping out kids left, right, and centre at the minute. I think due to COVID and spending a lot of time in bed. But I think it is important, man. All that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I like the conversation about authenticity because I had never really thought about it before. I heard a talk by Doug Palladini, was running Vans for a long time. Yeah. And he talked about how Vans floundered there for a while because they were just trying to be everything. You know what I mean? There was a CEO that was like, we're going to go after Nike. And instantly they got put back in their place. Like they bankrupted the company. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
And so then they had to find a new... Like, well, what do we do? Well, what we do is like fucking Tony Alva and Stacy Peralta created the first shoes.
I think I've heard this story recently. Or this is, unless I'm having like a big old deja vu right now.
Nice.
But Yeah, I think I've heard that story, man. Yeah.
So they said, look, we're going to run everything through this authenticity filter.
Yeah.
So like if we're going to give somebody money to do art, are they a real artist? Or are we going to, we're not going to get some celebrity that does some bullshit on a piece of paper for the celebrity.
I've got a question for you then. What's a real artist?
Yeah, anyone that's doing what they love, basically.
Yeah, someone asked me that, and I'm pretty much answered saying, look, who gives a shit? Like, as long as they're doing something. Yeah. Because it's nowadays, I'm an artist. Oh, what do you paint? Oh, no, I'm a musician. Well,
right.
You're a musician or an artist.
Right.
And then you go, same kind of thing, though. It's such a broad spectrum now. And
it's an easy question to answer, though. Yeah. An artist is someone who does art for a living, basically.
Yeah, any kind of art form,
It's like my buddy's a yoga teacher, and I don't do any yoga.
Yeah.
Mostly because if they called it like warrior stretching or something, then I'd probably be like, yeah, I do warrior stretching.
Give it a shot.
But yoga
take a couple of axes down there and throw them around a bit while you're bending over.
Right. But the fucking yoga is like basically a bad word now. Yeah. But what it really means is just living.
Yeah.
So like, I did some yoga today in my mind. I was eating a sandwich and I was like, this is a trip, man. If I think about the people that were involved in this sandwich, not just the nice person at the fucking store that made it or the nice cashier, but like the guy who planted the fucking wheat.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, wait, and somebody milked a fucking cow somewhere and somebody turned that milk into fucking cheese. There's probably 1,000 people in this sandwich. And then there's all these fucking life forms like a pig and a cow that had to live a whole life.
Yeah.
Like eating well, being, like a farmer hopefully treated it nicely and kind of knew its name or, it's like thousands of people in my hand every time I'm eating. And then when I'm taking a bite, if I'm not thinking of all those people and thanking all of them, then the equation's out of balance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? God, so everything we fucking do is out of balance.
Yeah. And balance is important. And it's good to have that balance in everything we do. I think it's definitely important when you're painting a picture or been able to juggle those things in life, because I've found over the years, not in a selfish way, but I've had to say to a few folk that my art comes first and that's it. And not many people can handle that. But, and so like recently I've just come out of a relationship, that lovely woman, inside and out. But maybe that's partly why we did end up calling it a day, because just the way that I am about what I want to do, I don't know. You have to have that balance. And I take my hat off to friends like Danny Larson, or I've got another one, Shallow Tree, and those artists that can hold that down and have a family. Even Jimbo now,
Jim,
he's popped out little Thalo, lovely little kid. He's got a relationship, and it's so rad seeing him in that place where he's in now, And I'm looking forward to be able to get in that groove again for 1910 stuff and what we do there, and to have that balance and see my mates do that and be able to. It's like Si, I've got another company with him, House of Maiden, and he's got that balance of running House of Maiden, his company, having a little kiddie, living in London, which that ain't my thing, but it's his thing, and a missus as well. And when you see mates having that balance, it's really cool, and I think it's an important thing,
Fuck yeah. That balance is what I was just talking about with yoga. Like yoga is just the balance of life, right?
Yeah.
Like, so when you're actually good at life, it kind of becomes more easy.
Yeah.
And to become good at life, it's good if you're authentically interested in the shit you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, but then I do think balance is good, and maybe that's just my balance, being able to do like pretty much what I want to do.
Well, anything that takes away from your ability to enjoy life, right? Like if it adds to it, then you just go in that direction. Seems like the right way to do it.
Yeah, exactly. If it adds to it, and end of the day, if it's something makes you happy, and that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, if I'm not in that position of, I hate saying creating, I've just been used to saying, I paint pictures, cut the colour by numbers. It's all smoke and mirrors, but if you can do that and have that balance, it's amazing. But then again, if I can't do it for some reason, or if I'm not doing it, I'm not in the best place. I don't tend to get anxious or depressed about stuff because I'm in a very fortunate position of what I'm doing from where I'm from. But it's very difficult for me to deal with a lot of other things that you need to deal with in life if I'm not doing that thing that I want to do. And it's not so much snowboarding anymore because I do make time for that a lot more than I did back in the day. You know, some of the trips that I get to do now, just, you know, I just feel very fortunate.
You were just at Bald Face for... Wait, the Bald Face was before your birthday, and then on your birthday, you did the heli. Where was the heli?
Up in Stella. Literally, it was kind of on the cards. I kind of teed it up a little bit. House of Maiden, we did a job for Jeff. And the story goes is like we did these 30 rings for whatever. I don't know if we've got to keep this on the quiet, but we did a job for him anyway.
Sure.
I designed it, so I put it into practice in London with his team there. And on the Zoom chat, Jeff's like, as he is, he went, "Oh, and by the way, you hairy bastard, you've got to come and deliver him." And we were just like,
sick
quality. So yeah, we took him up there. And I've been before up to Ballface, but it was rad having my mate up there as well. So we went up there, spent 4 days, you know, just getting in the cat with a good crew of Mexican lads. They were sound, and
rad.
Just that vibe up there and being able to do that. And Jeff just connecting people, he's so good at that. And being able to do that. So doing this job for him. So we did that, went back down to Nelson, and Scotty had come up with us, our third party in 1910, the guy that basically keeps the cogs moving.
Yeah.
And lets me and Jamie be artists.
Rad.
Which, you know, we wouldn't be where we are if it wasn't for Scotty, you know, because he does stuff that I ain't got a clue about it. And to be honest, I don't want to have a clue about it. I want to put that effort into what I do, you know, and
yeah.
And I think that's important to have those roles. And Scotty's come in, and yeah, he's kind of a bit of a backbone at the minute. So he kind of said to us before we came out, he's like, "Right, boys, on the 10th, how about we get a heli for, you know, Stella?" And I'm like, yeah. So me and Jimbo were like, "Yeah, how are we going to pay for this?" I was like, "On 1910, this is why we do it." And I was like, "Yeah," because our common bond, apart from mine and Jim's being art, is snowboarding. So the thing is, I don't think they clocked that it was my birthday. And I did kind of tee it up to come out at the beginning of March around my birthday to Ballface, just so I could do something with a mate and have a good time, you know?
Yep.
And snowboard Amazing Power at the minute. And experience Ballface.
Shit, yeah.
And then on my birthday, I came down and it was like, right, next day straight up on the, you know, we got like 10 or 12 drops up in Stella, and they were like, "Yeah, you've got, we thought we'd pay for a deluxe day on 1910. And then the guide's like, "Oh no, you got, what was it, Infinity," or I don't know what it was. It was
Unlimited,
like, you got about, whatever I can't remember what the word is. But, well, you're not on the list for deluxe, so I'm just going to carry on skiing if you want to join me. And so we were like, yeah. And we just kept on lapping, and just the whole experience with close mates, you know, I think we all need to do that. And coming out of COVID and everything else, a lot of us haven't been able to do that. And I've not shredded with Jim for a while, and or Scotty even. I don't think I've ever shredded with Scotty.
Rad.
But to do that on my birthday as well, it was like a double whammy for me. It was like, you know, I think we'd done this run, and one of them, I think I started welling up. I was like, I can't fucking believe this. This is just exactly how it should be. Not just for a birthday, but this is what mates should do. Like, and sometimes you don't get that opportunity because you live everywhere, different people, and they've got different things going off in their lives. But if I can come over from the UK, Scotty comes up from Costa Mesa, and Jimbo's already up there. And for 1910 and what we do it for and what 1910 is in this industry, it means the fucking world to me, because it's what people should be doing, you know, not getting too tied up in a lot of things and just doing it for why we do it. And Scotty made me realize that by coming up. And then on my birthday, he's like, "Right, by the way, your birthday's the pub's on 1910 as well." So it was cool because there was different crowds, and like Arthur and Gittler was there and a few others, and then me, Jimbo, and 1910, and we had a whole crew of guys, and it was just swarmed with people wearing 1910 and drinking Guinness.
Dope.
And it was just that community feeling as well. I've not felt for a while because I'm a different generation in the UK snowboarding now. I don't really follow that much, but I stepped out of it as well because of what I was doing in the US and the brands I was working with. But doing that trip with close mates, it's just, yeah, pretty mind blowing, man. It just
all time.
like we all know, you know, trips like that, you know, it's yeah, pretty all time.
Yeah, I can count them on one hand. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like one finger. Like they never happen.
Yeah.
You don't get to go, especially heli. Heli's a really incredible experience.
It is. It's because in Europe we don't get the opportunity to do it because they don't really do it.
They don't run
No.
heli skiing there?
And same with sledding, it's not really a thing. So,
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So it's not really especially in team.
Yeah.
You know, recently the heli stuff's kind of ended. I was speaking to a French mate over there and she said, yeah, it's not really a thing, you know. So to have that opportunity to come over here and also even going back to a young Schoph watching the garden and you got old Jimbo sat next to you.
Oh man.
And you're thinking, fuck, anytime you get to snowboard with him, I cherish that because it's just watching a childhood hero, even though how close we are now and we're business partners and we've got a lot of shit going off and like, it's just so amazing seeing him in his element.
Yeah. He's Jamie fucking Lynn,
Yeah.
dude. Like,
And, you know, I don't want to blow too much smoke up.
no,
his ass,
of
but-
course, because he's your buddy. But yeah, I remember seeing him at Mount Baker and
Yeah.
probably around 93 or 94.
Yeah.
And it was like really a paradigm shift.
Yeah.
Like it was like we thought we could do what the pros did. We
Yeah.
were like, yeah, we're right there. You know, we got next year's shit. We think we're great. And then you see Jamie come down the canyon at Baker and you just go, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
I'll never be able to do that.
Yeah.
Like in a million lifetimes of practice,
Yeah.
I couldn't go that fast and blast like that. And he's not even being followed by a camera or anything. He's
No.
just having a day
Yeah, he's just
at
doing his
Baker,
thing.
just doing his thing. Yeah.
He's just doing Jimbo, isn't he?
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah.
But even having that opportunity, you know, to get in a heli with him on my birthday and,
Rad.
you know, like I said, I've shredded with him before at Baker and things like that. But to have that opportunity, that's something we can't do in Europe.
Yeah.
And it's, to be honest, it's down to Scotty. And unfortunately, we were allowed to take Cy up as well because it's not cheap. And
No.
we thought, fuck it. He's one of us and it's 1910, so we're
Yeah.
going to bring him along as well. And he'd had the sickest time at Ballface and it was like, yeah, this run's got to continue.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's not going to continue. It's not going to stop until we leave.
That's so dope.
I think that's important to, you know, opportunities like that, they don't happen all the time. So when you can do it,
Yeah.
you know, I think it's very important to do it because it puts you in a better headspace as well.
Yeah, you got to
about a lot
live
of
it
things.
while you're in it. That's another thing. A few years ago on a chairlift realized I was like 4 runs ahead. Like I'm gonna track this thing, go there, hit that cliff before anyone gets there. And meanwhile, I'm like, fuck, I don't even remember what I did last run.
Yeah.
Because I'm already 4 runs ahead in my head.
And is that snowboarding? Is that, or you know what I mean? You want to be in that moment.
You want
really.
the
You
flow
don't-
state, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the
Yeah.
thing. Like that's really what you're after.
Yeah.
And if you get it from art, like again, same thing. If you ever find yourself making art and then you're not in that flow state, it's just like bumming you out.
Yeah.
Or you're thinking 4 pieces ahead, you're kind of just phoning this one in or whatever it is that you're doing.
And I used to do that. I used to think, because obviously in the industry you have to work like 2 years ahead or something. No, 1 year ahead, whatever.
Yeah.
Or I can't do the math on that.
3 maybe.
It feels like
Yeah.
feels like a slog anyway.
Yeah.
But when you're working on 1 or 2 or 3 graphics, it's kind of you have to. I remember last year I was doing Travis's and the terrain wrecker, which I usually do now, and that's the graphic I do. But I was like, right, jumping back and forth and going, oh, this has got to go down like that. And even though, you know, I'm fortunate to do those, you know, Travis's, like it was so sick working with him, even though he's out there.
He's
And
Travis,
But
man.
yeah, he's Travis. And,
Yeah.
you know, I do actually love working with him because he puts me in a different place with work. He opens me up to different ideas.
He's very much like you and is like uncompromising. Like, no, yeah, I know you're an artist, but you have to do this for me.
Yeah.
Like it's got to be the way that
Yeah.
I'm thinking up here.
Yeah, and it was cool doing that because he put me in a place that usually I go into a graphic and go, right, what do I think is going to look rad? And what I want on there and what would,
Yeah.
even though there's a bit of compromise there with obviously the reps and people like that at Lib have to check stuff out, but
Sure.
9 times out of 10, I have a bit of artistic license on it. But with Travis, it was like,
You're working
Like-
for Travis, man.
it was rad, but also at the same time, it was like, fuck me, this is, I'm totally somewhere else that I thought where this was going to go. And going back to that thing about trying not to work ahead of yourself and be in that moment of actually doing it, that's the only time I've struggled with it in the past maybe 5 years, because I knew what I wanted to do on the wrecker, but when it comes to someone like Travis's graphics, you're like, shit, I want to put my name on this and do my best.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you want to keep this that you're working with. And that's
his graphics are wild and out there.
Yeah. I've always appreciated Perillo's art, though. I mean,
Perillo.
That was another artist that I looked at when I was growing up, Jim's Perillo's. He's a great artist, and he comes out with some crazy stuff, like
out there.
And the colors he uses and all that kind of stuff. I've always appreciated his art, and I think Travis and that partnership he's got with Perillo, it works really well,
Yeah. What's the what's the working relationship look like when you're doing a Travis graphic? Like, is he telling you his lucid dreaming shit and trip stuff and aliens and his beliefs about the stuff that, he's got some wild shit that he's into.
Yeah, it takes you a minute, put it that way.
Yeah, sure.
Because the
magic portal over Jackson, this whole fucking thing that
he was going on about some bloke called Saint Germain to me, and I was like, right, okay. So I'm trying to look into him, and then going on about it was just he's got that kind of intenseness about him, but there again, he knows what he wants. So you have to remember that. And it is quite at the same time you're thinking, fuck, I've got to do a graphic here that's going to hopefully stand a little bit of time, and you want people to go, I remember that Travis graphic.
Totally.
And a side note on that is the guy that actually said, I probably never have a graphic. Yeah. Messaged me and said, that's one of the best graphics I've ever seen.
Ah, fucking right. That's epic. That's epic.
I was like, that stoked me out. But anyway, going back to that, working with Travis, you want to do him a graphic that gives justice to how his riding is, I think.
Totally.
Coming from the snowboard side of it as well, even though it's just crazy because he comes out with some crazy stuff. And I got in a wormhole, when I sent the files over to him to check, the folder was called The Wormhole because I was in somewhere deep that I'd never been before about UFOs living with us.
Yes.
Yeah, malevolent aliens, which I'm not that illiterate or whatever that word is.
Yeah.
I had to Google what malevolent meant. I was like, what the bloody hell's that mean? But it's one of them things that...
I love it.
It took a minute, but in the end, I just said, okay, I've got all this information. I started sketching shit down. In the end, I said, right, Travis, just give me a month.
Yeah.
And I just got deep into it. And I was listening to documentaries about UFOs coming down to, the earth and living with us and helping us.
Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, all that shit.
And then higher levels of angels and above that and above that. And then that's how that graphic breaks down from this dude up here who does what he does, then these angel folk, and then a couple of aliens or what have you, and then down to earth.
Yep.
And then he's got the hidden messages in it and stuff. But it gives us that little bit more than just going, okay, I know what I'm doing with the wrecker or whatever graphic I'm working on. And,
right.
I've got to give it to Travis. During COVID was a bit of a shit time for any artist, I think, but you just chip away and you keep doing what you can do so you can keep at it.
Yeah.
And I'd come out of doing the natural selection tour, painting for him, commemorative painting, and when we're talking about that, he's like, right, he gave me a few ideas, and when that worked out, he was a huge benefactor of what I do over that period of time. Right. So I've got to give it to Travis. He really helped me out with
patron of the arts. My buddy's a Haida totem pole cover. Yeah. And he's just absolutely amazing at form line. Same as James Johnson.
Which is
crazy hard.
He said in his podcast, it's true. Yeah. I tried it and I had to message him and say, mate, that's rock hard.
Because it looks incredibly simple. Yeah. It's not in any way, shape, or form. So my Haida buddy, he's crazy famous. He was the first Canadian artist to have his art in the Louvre. He's the real deal, this guy.
Yeah, yeah.
And you have to let him do his thing, because if you were paying him to make art, so the way that the Haida did it forever was that the chief would hire the artist and they wouldn't get to look at the totem pole. They would live together, and the chief was on the hook for all of his living expenses. And the artist would live pretty high on the hog, man. He was not. They weren't skimping. They were eating the best food, and it took as long as it took. So the patron of the arts, for him, doesn't get any say in when or where he does his art.
Yeah.
So you've got people that sign on for 10 years to get a totem pole made that are like by the end of 10 years going, this guy's scamming me. But he's not scamming.
Yeah.
He only does the art when he can do the fucking art. Like, and he needs to be comfortable to do his art.
It is important that, you know.
Yeah.
With Travis, he is a supporter of what a lot of the artists do in the industry, because he did have the Asymbol gallery at the time, and you know, I was involved with that as an artist, and the lineup, that roster of artists
that was cool.
Were all also, it was nice because it was a community feeling, because there were other artists that I work with at Lib or GNU, or you know, doing stuff with Vans. I've done stuff like with other artists there or whatever, and he brought a crew of artists together that at the time would sort of important with how the look of snowboarding looked.
Totally.
And when it ended, it's the reason why me and Jim started talking about 1910, like it's part of that at least, because we had a format. We'd already started collaborating together, and Iguchi got involved in a few as well because it was out in Jackson, and
rad.
It kind of worked out that shit, we don't actually need a gallery. I kind of work with another gallery, like in the more finer art side of things, Red House Gallery in Harrogate. So I've got two splits of my art. So I didn't have any pressure when Asymbol closed, because I knew that I could still do this without having a gallery representation.
Right.
So when that finished, me and Jim started talking, and part of why 1910 is what it is because we thought, well, we don't need a name as in the gallery. We can do this on our own.
Yeah.
But at the time, Asymbol was important at the time, like everything, you know. And when it ended, sometimes it's the right time for something to end as well, to start something else. And for me and Jimbo, it was 1910. So these, you know, it's just different chapters that open and close, you know. But Travis was a huge part of that as well, and he has been a huge benefactor to my work of late. So
he's kind of a visionary dude, eh? Like all these things that he does.
Yeah,
I was a little critical of him competing in his own contest, and then the old Burton rep Martino chimed in and was like, "Dude, do you know what he's doing for snowboarding? Like, Travis is the fucking man." And then those finals runs at Natural Selection this year, I just was like, I ate my hat. I was like, okay, fuck.
Yeah.
Nobody could do that.
Yeah. We were watching up at the lodge, like with some of the guides, and we were like, who gives a shit if it's his own competition? I mean, what's he doing? Snowboarding.
He's snowboarding. And he's snowboarding at a level that nobody's ever done before. And live TV, like, a full run that would be in a fucking part. Yeah. That's impossible. Ask everyone else that's at that contest how hard it is to go from being a guy that's spinning, you know, cab 12s in the back country to like just really focusing on getting a good front three. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, and Travis is just, he's from another planet. He is an alien.
Well, that did come through my mind when I'm doing that graphic for him. He's like, can you put this little saying into it? Oh, I can't even remember what it was. Something, it won't be long soon or something. I'm like, mate, what won't be long soon? And he's like, just won't be long soon. Can we have it in there somewhere? Like, yeah, okay. I'm thinking, this fucker's an alien, man. But yeah.
I love it.
It's funny, man. It's funny. But
yeah. You've had a great career in snowboarding. It's just getting started now with 1910.
I think 1910 was kind of a necessity for me and Jim, because we'll always collaborate together. It didn't really need a title.
Rad.
But we started working. We were fortunate that Volcom held its arm out for us and said, boys, there's a studio for you here.
Rad.
So every time I used to come to America, I'd struggle because I didn't have a creative space. Volcom saw that, as I'd already been working with them in the past, and they were like, you know, you and Jamie can have this space. And Scotty Daniels, our third party in 1910, he was basically the fire behind that. It's like, VSM is yours after hours. So me and Jim just used to get 2 hammocks, pitch up, and just paint.
Oh, rad.
And being in California in that area and everything else, it was just so easy to be there, and having the support from Volcom that I can't thank enough, you know. it worked out pretty organic. We'd started painting and knocking out paintings left, right, and centre. Scotty came up to us and said, "What's the deal? Like, can people buy these?" And then a few staff from Volcom were coming out and all the rest of it. And we were like, yeah, because we need to buy some more canvas to paint some more pictures. So that's how you support artists, right?
Yeah.
With the hookups with Vans, Volcom, Lib, they started getting gist of what we're doing, working together, not under the banner of 1910, but just as mates making art. And there was one year, it was a pretty shit winter. Yeah, it was like on the road for a full year. From starting at SIA, we had a few months off. Then we had a show in Oslo with PJ DeVille, as he's like a shallow tree. That's his art show that he curates. And then it was France, Spain, Tokyo, back to Costa Mesa.
Wow.
And that was all to do with brands. So Tokyo was Volcom, 10 years, something or other, an anniversary thing. Costa Mesa was Vans for their homecoming. That's when they moved to Costa Mesa, their place where they're at now, and we were painting a big piece there. And
dope.
The France and Spain legs were with the Volcom US skate team, and we were 2 artists on it, just painting pictures while, you know, you got all those skaters just doing mad shit. And
that's rad.
It was just on the road for ages. And the time as well, I was like putting a show together with Kyle Maynard, who used to work for C3.
Yeah.
He works with Resin as well, which I work with. And we got, long story short, we started curating a bunch of shows. The first one was actually in Seattle.
Dope.
Then it went to London, then Jackson Hole to Asymbol, and then back to London for the 4th one over a period of like 3 years. And I just wanted to do my own show. Asymbol was kind of slowing down a bit, but I wanted to work with other artists in the industry, so we'd be curating it, having artists from the snow industry. It was a touring art show that wasn't actually happening. And so no one was seeing these artists do what they fucking do. It was a platform for them to put their art out there to a bigger audience, you know? So we did that. And the 4th one was the end of that year. So we got back to LA. We did the job for Vans and Volcom. And this was like end of October time. And we coined it The Highway to Human Nature, because that was the show that I called it, like Human Nature. And we called it, and I called Jim back up. I'd gone back to England. He was in Seattle. I'm like, "Oh, Jim, you got to come over back to England now. We're doing Human Nature." He's gone, "All right." So he gets on the plane, comes over, and it was a whole year of just like, fuck me. And I remember us both stood outside the back of the shows going, fucking hell, we just spent a whole year on the road just making a hell of a lot of art and having a fucking good laugh. Literally laughing like belly fucking laughs. It's very difficult sometimes to have that, you know?
Yeah.
And when you're painting and doing something that you love as well, it was such a great year. And afterwards, we were really proud of what we'd done. That was kind of the planting the seed for 1910 and what we were going to do it. Jimbo came up with the name, and it, you know, 19 numerically is S, 10 is J in the alphabet. And that was it. And when Scotty came in, we started doing, you know, talking merch, where we're going to take it, what roles we're going to have in it, all this kind of thing. And it's kind of fucking quite nuts to see how fast it's moving, and we've not launched it yet. You know, we've got some tight guys working with us and helping us out. Aaron being one who's given us this shop just to have a chin wag now.
Nice. Thanks, Aaron.
Yeah, cheers, Aaron. Yeah, I've got a solid group of reps helping us out that, you know, they're the best in the game, and they want to support it for what they can see it being.
Totally.
Even in Europe now, every time I'm over in the Alps, I've got a good French crew following it in Teen and that valley. It's just nuts that people are getting behind it, and the more that people do, the more that we want to support people as well, and be able to get our art in the right places and have the right people supporting it, you know. It's not just for us either, it's for people that want to get involved with it. Like down the line, I want to bring in other collaborators, the artists, you know, and similar to what we did with Human Nature and Asymbol, it's a platform that they can get involved as well. Maybe not in the next 5 years, but once it starts rolling, it's been good, man. It's been so good already. We've not properly launched it. The website will be dropping soon. We've got a close friend of ours doing it, and we just want to iron those creases out. So everything's in place. We've got Japan getting involved already. We've got distribution in England being sorted out now. And yeah, who knows, man? I mean, end of the day, it can be something, it can be nothing. But if it doesn't work out, me and Jim are always going to be mates and painting pictures. So
sick.
And acting like big kids. So what it is what it is.
Quite the life.
Yeah. And we've actually got the print. I don't know where it is.
I think it's wrapped up.
Is it wrapped up now? We've got a print that we want to give to you, mate.
Yeah, look at that. Oh, my God. Look at that thing.
So whether you keep it or you give it to one of your listeners, it's your call, man.
There's a couple of them, right? Like, so there's one, I'm keeping one, 100%. And they're signed by you guys, which is insane. Oh, dude. Love the owls.
But it's that thing, giving it back to people that are doing cool shit as well. Like,
thanks.
So, yeah. I think it's important to support each other.
Yeah. Means the world to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm the same as you. The first time I talked to Jamie on the phone, it was on a particularly hard day for him.
Yeah.
He was coming from a funeral, actually.
Yeah.
And we had it really was this rad moment at the Baker Bank Slalom. I won a lottery spot, and so I was there.
Rad, man.
And I was really excited, and I trained for a couple of months.
Yeah.
Like ate better, was stretching, and I get there.
Eating seeds and stuff like that, and doing that, doing, what is it, warrior yoga?
Warrior yoga, that's what it was, exactly.
Yeah.
And so I get there, and here are these people that I've talked to, mostly on the phone. I knew Terrier a little bit, knew Jamie, and then my friends from Vancouver are there too. So one of my friends from Vancouver is like, when can you take a lap with us? And I'm like, I'll go for a lap with you right now. Is it okay if my friend Jamie comes?
What you say, he snowboards fast as fuck and you got to keep up with him. But
oh, so fast.
100 miles an hour.
Yeah. And so I just said to him, didn't know him from anyone really. Hey, Jamie, you want to take a lap with us? And he's like, yeah, for sure. And I'm like, holy fuck. I turned to my friends and my eyes are like saucers. And I'm like, we're riding a lap at Baker with Jamie Lynn, boys. And then he was just the chillest fucking dude.
Knowing Jim now for a long time and being close with what we do and everything, I've introduced like Sai to him on this trip properly. He's met him before, but not being able to communicate with him or, he's been pulled left, right and center.
Yeah.
But those guys have clicked as well. They were shredding together and it's like, he'll always be a close mate now to Sai, Now he's got to know him and stuff. And that's just who Jamie is. Like, is this something about that mystique of who the fucker is that, Yeah, and he's just such a good person, right? Like when he came through Vancouver, he made a point of having breakfast, me and my wife and him and Deanie, before they had Thalo. And my wife was just blown away. And like just the little things, you know what I mean? Like he's kind to people. Yeah. He's not the kind of guy who's like, man, if he's got no money to his name, he'll give you his last penny. Absolutely. Like, right. On my birthday the other night, he went over to the little ticket scratch gambler thing. He must have got about 250 of the fuckers out and made $3. And we're all just sat there, massive pile of these things. Going, happy birthday, brother. They're flicking them out. Yeah, we got $3 out of that, mate. He's like, good job. And that's just who he is. Like, that's who he is. Yeah. I think I told this story on Matt's podcast, but the first time I properly sort of connected with him and hung out with him was in Munich at the Expo that the Lib crew were there when I got first introduced properly to Sari and everything. And came up to me after, he's like, do you want to go for some beers, Schoph? We're going to have a bit of a Mervyn party in the hotel. So we went in there and he was like, right. He's got his phone in his hand, he's got something else, he's got carrying loads of shit. He's got pockets, he didn't want to put them in there. Anyway, he goes, he looks around and everyone's like got like a little bit of beer left or whatever. Even though there was a bar, he went, got these two massive bags and fucked off to this corner shop, this booze shop. Came back and he's carrying it. They're just full of like loads of different booze, loads of different whiskeys, all this crap in there. And she came and was like, get involved. Like, I always remember it. And it was just like, what the... He's like, yeah, it's on me. He's just kind, man. He's just, I don't know what that word is, but... Well, he doesn't seem to be motivated by money. No. Like, I haven't seen it.
Maybe sometimes he gets stressed out about money. Probably.
Yeah.
He's a human being.
I'm sure he does now as well with little Thalo and stuff. But
Sure.
it's not on his radar, is it?
Yeah.
But it's coming back to the 1910 thing, man. It is that thing that just gifting you that, we want to support people that are doing this shit for the right reasons, and just having a chinwag about it. It helps us to be able to get it out there that little bit more, that maybe a platform to some of your listeners don't know about it or whatever. Yeah. And also us being able to share that it puts, some of our people who support us onto your program, It means
so much to me to hear you say that. I was just talking with Rob Dow from Wired Snowboards supports the show, and he's really a money-minded person. He's constantly coming at me saying, like, look, you can sell these spots in front of the show, like, just ask for $100. It's nothing. It falls out of the wallets of these guys' sponsors.
Yeah.
But I also was talking with Dustin Craven about Natural Selection. I go, well, why do you not have any sponsors when your name comes up? And he goes, because it was $10,000 per sponsor to get them on the little thing, right? Because it's in front of so many people. Yeah. And I'm like, well, that's why I'm not charging $100. Like, when Schoph comes on, we're putting up 1910 and LibTech and Dragon in the credits because it's the right fucking thing to do, because it helps me out that he's on the show, and I want to help him out that he's on the show. Like,
oh man, that's the way to do it, man. I mean,
and he's like, you're leaving money on the table, dummy. And I'm like, I don't know. There's not everything has to be about money.
Yeah, it's true, man. Yeah.
Not every time. Some of it, it's like if you're going snowboarding, heliboarding, and there's a filmer or a photographer, you're living for the one where you don't have to take any shots.
Yeah.
You're living for that one run where you just drop in from the top and you fucking rip the whole thing to the bottom.
Mate, that was it.
Thinking about it.
Going back to that day the other day up at Stella, it was like, I don't think once I thought about how much it's costing 1910 for us all to be there smiling our fucking asses off like little boys. You know? And just enjoying it for what it is.
That's the best feeling.
You know what I mean? I don't think it crossed our minds, to be honest. It was just why we're there doing it.
That's so dope.
Yeah. Funny old game, isn't it?
It is. I think that's a great spot to end it. Thank you for being on the show.
Mate, thanks for having me.
Really appreciate you.
You're going to have to get subtitles for it. Long time listener, first time Brit. So I'm stoked about that.
Yeah, you're the very first. I've had 200. You're like 202 on the guest list.
I was holding out for 666, but you didn't. Yeah.
I had somebody from Australia, but I don't think their episode ever got out. I was gonna do an Australian version of it in my summer.
Yeah.
Because why the fuck would I not? There's a whole scene over there, same as your scene.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a million ways I can monetize this or make it more work, but I prefer to do it this way.
Yeah.
This was fun.
You got
this
it
was great.
Yeah, I hope I didn't bore you too much.
That was killer, dude.
Thank you very much, mate.
Boring zero, man. No, that was awesome. We just did an hour and 45 minutes.
Did we?
Yeah, just like that. FNRad shoutouts this week to Schoph, his buddy Cy, Aaron Fredrickson, who let us use his amazing tattoo shop in West Seattle to do the interview. Blaze Rosenthal, man, what could I say? Blaze Boot Camp was awesome. There were so many people making it an epic adventure. I can't possibly thank them all, but I have to definitely thank Andy Bloomberg. Andy's the visionary behind Blaze Boot Camp. He's the glue that holds it all together. Thanks so much for having me as a guest at the camp. And thank you, listeners, for making it all the way to the end of the show. Be sure to come back next week for another episode of the FNRad Snowboard Podcast, presented by Vans and brought to you by FNRad Snowboarding.